Previously, Cain starts calling Ghislain, saying that finally, the main character makes his appearance. Ghislain doesn't say anything and just glares at Cain. Together with Cain seems to be a scout. Looking at Cain, Ghislain remembers that face well. He is the heir of the Loges Count, with whom they have an alliance. This guy is Cain Loges. For Ghislain, he was his only friend at that time and also his enemy. Cain Loges slowly walks toward Ghislain in an arrogant manner. Ghislain asks Ricardo what the situation is right now. Ricardo starts stuttering and tells Ghislain that it is as he sees. Ricardo says that they responded to a report of a disturbance in the tavern. Ricardo said that they found Cain there with his escort knight. Recognizing them, Ricardo said that he asked if the rumors about the young Master Ghislain were true. So Commander Scoven explained the details of the rumors to him. Then Cain Loges grabs the head of Commander Scoven, raises him upwards, and asks Commander Scoven if he dares lie before the heir of Loges. Ricardo told Ghislain, and that is how the start of what happened. Cain called Ricardo and told him that if he was going to tell Ghislain, it was better to tell him the truth. Cain told Ghislain that Commander Scoven claimed that Ghislain, who never even trains, took down an Urks with his bare hands and dealt with the traitorous escort knight himself. Cain starts looking down at Ghislain. He said that this is the reason he just gave Scoven a little wake-up call to knock some sense into him. Cain said that this wouldn't have happened if Ghislain hadn't lied first. Ghislain didn't say anything and just glares at this arrogant bastard. To him, this is the kind of person this guy is. He always treats Ghislain as his subordinate. Every time he visited Perdium, he always made a mess. Even after causing all that trouble, no one could say anything because Ghislain was basically his subordinate. No one looked down upon Cain, unlike Ghislain in the past, who always had an inferiority complex. His confidence and bold demeanor were praised as qualities befitting an heir. That is also the reason why Ghislain was criticized more. Ghislain could only sigh and smile, thinking about that past. Cain was silent, looking at Ghislain because of his sudden change. Cain smirked as he thought about this change because, usually, Ghislain would have charged at him with that much provocation. A while ago in the Loges County, that scout appeared and told him about the proposal. The scout in a robe was asked by Cain what he meant by killing Ghislain. The scout said that if he succeeded in this task, the esteemed one would support the Loges family. Cain starts thinking about that proposal. He said that it is not a hard task to deal with a punk like him, but he told the scout that Ghislain is still also an heir to his land. He asks the scout how he is supposed to eliminate him. This villainous envoy said that they can lure Ghislain into a duel, making it appear as if an unfortunate accident occurred. He said that it would simply seem like a trivial dispute between heirs. The scout told Cain that he would accompany him, disguised as an escort knight, orchestrating the situation. He told Cain that there was no need for concern. Although he assured Cain that there was no need for concern, my concern is why Cain looks like that with a big, muscular body like the Hulk but a small head. Anyway, going back, the scout said that this is an uncommon opportunity, even for someone like Cain. Cain was silent for a moment. He said that to think he would have to kill his own cousin Ghislain. He starts clenching his hands and told the scout that they could go right away. Cain looks back at the scout and starts to question if they wanted to eliminate Ghislain because something has changed about him. For Cain, in that case, there is something he needs to do. He told Ghislain that they should liven up the mood and have an amazing time. Cain asks Ghislain if he agrees that they have always been in sync when it comes to things like this. Ghislain starts glaring at the enemy. Cain asks him if he agrees with everything he said, but the MC was silent. Then Cain starts calling Ghislain his buddy. Ghislain begins thinking about things. Then something comes to his mind, and he asks Cain if he's talking about that. Ghislain remembers that this guy always had him prepare alcohol and women every time he came there. Ghislain can only smile, thinking about his idiotic past. For Ghislain, because of Cain, he had to waste his precious money. He remembers the time when Belinda told him that the Lord had cut off the financial support because he was wasting so much money. And in that memory, something else came to mind. He smiles, looking at Cain, thinking that the answer to his question was in this place all along. He looks at Cain and realizes that right now, Cain is the source of his money. While Ghislain is thinking about this, Cain starts shouting, calling him. Cain tells Ghislain that if he remembers, then he better bring them right now. Cain arrogantly asks Ghislain if he can't see him waiting. Ghislain says that he agrees and should bring them right now, but he slowly walks towards Cain and glares at him. Ghislain asks Cain if he remembers that he still has a debt to repay him. The scout, who was watching, was alarmed because this didn't go according to the plan he created. Cain asks Ghislain what debt he should repay. Ghislain tells Cain that he must have already realized that he has been handling everything he asked him to prepare with his own money, so Ghislain asks Cain to pay it back. Ghislain smiles, saying he will settle for 1,000 gold, principal plus interest. Cain is shocked to hear that and asks Ghislain what he means by 1,000 gold. He tells Ghislain that it shouldn't have even cost him 100 gold. Cain says that Ghislain has been doing that because he thanked him for being his friend. Cain tells Ghislain that it's like a friendship fee. Ghislain asks what he means by those friendship trash things. Ghislain tells Cain that he has been his doormat for the longest time. Hearing this catches the attention of a big guy with a small head. Ghislain smirks and tells Cain that he needs to pay it back before he beats the hell out of him. Ghislain says that, as he sees it, he needs a lot of money right now. Everyone is alarmed to see that Ghislain is the one taunting his big cousin. Ricardo is also shocked, and he can only ask in his mind what his young master is thinking. Cain stands up, but Ghislain is not intimidated at all. Cain takes a deep sigh and tells Ghislain that he's starting to act bold just because he has been going easy on him. Cain says that it seems Ghislain believes he has actually gotten stronger just because he spread a false rumor saying he won against a knight. Cain tells Ghislain that he is nothing but a parasite leeching off this land. Then he starts gripping his large arms. He says that this is why everyone in the north calls Ghislain a scoundrel when all he, the supposed heir, does is spout empty nonsense. He's about to punch Ghislain, telling him to get himself together. As that punch is approaching, Ghislain just stands there and doesn't even flinch. But with a minor movement, Ghislain is able to dodge Cain's large arm that was about to punch him. The scout and Ricardo are shocked to see Ghislain's movement. Cain starts getting annoyed with Ghislain, then begins swinging his arms back again, but Ghislain just avoids it. Because of Cain's large body and the opening that Ghislain sees through, his punches are able to go in and hit the right side of Cain's body. Cain feels the pain and starts to question what that is. He also begins coughing up a little blood. But Ghislain doesn't stop there and releases another punch right into the enemy's face. However, this time, Cain manages to block the punch and starts smiling. Ghislain is confused about why the guy is smiling at him. Then Cain starts to fall to his knees and begins coughing up blood. He starts groaning after that. Then the scout, who was acting like an escort knight, rushes in, asking Cain if he is alright. But Cain is acting like he received a fatal blow. Ghislain isn't pleased with their act. He tells Cain to get up, telling him to stop whining. Ghislain says he knows that Cain completely blocked that shot. The acting escort knight shouts at Ghislain, telling him to stand back. The escort knight asks him what he thinks he's doing. Then the people in the pub start murmuring, asking what happened and if Ghislain beat up Cain. Someone asks if anyone got a proper view of the attack. But Ghislain looking at those guys, thinking about what happened. Ghislain realizes how these guys want to play it. Cain smiles at the scout and asks him if he likes how he acts. The evil scout says that it was excellent. The scout says he has set the stage perfectly to make it appear that the fault lies with Ghislain in everyone's eyes. The scout says this would be enough to justify a duel. Cain pulls something out of his clothes. For him, this is a rare opportunity to gain such powerful backing. He plans to make sure to leave a lasting impression this time. He actually pulls off his gloves. For him, this is the perfect time to cut off Perdium, a falling power. He is about to throw his gloves and starts to act. He tells Ghislain how dare he tarnish the dignity of nobility with lies and attack him for simply verifying the truth. He challenges Ghislain to a duel, but before he can throw his gloves at Ghislain to issue the challenge, some gloves are thrown in his face. It's Ghislain who throws first before Cain can do it, and Ghislain says that he challenges Cain Loges to a duel. As the gloves slowly fall from his face, it's clear that Cain Loges is extremely pissed off this time. Ghislain says that Cain insulted him, the heir, in front of the people of Perdium. He also assaulted his knight, tarnishing the dignity of nobility. Ricardo is shocked to hear this from Ghislain, knowing what he was like in the past. Ghislain glares at Cain and asks if he is thinking of denying those claims. Cain Loges remains silent the whole time, as he didn't expect this to happen. Then he starts smiling and laughing like a madman. He tells Ghislain that he already knew he was stupid but didn't expect him to be stupid enough to dig his own grave. Then Cain pulls his greatsword and says that it's fine now. He will accept Ghislain's duel. He points his sword at Ghislain, telling him not to regret it even if he dies. But Ghislain just looks at him, undaunted by the large sword pointed at him. He doesn't budge at all. Then he calls Ricardo, who was tending to Commander Scoven. Ricardo, stuttering, starts asking his master. Ghislain tells Ricardo to bring all the merchants who are protesting in front of the castle. Ricardo starts sweating because he doesn't know what is on his master's mind. Ghislain starts warming up his hands and smiles. He tells Ricardo to inform those merchants that he will make them earn big money. The festival was suddenly cancelled because of an event related to Elena. The atmosphere, which had heated up to its peak, suddenly cooled down, leaving behind some tourists who couldn't leave out of regret. They must be in a state of incomplete combustion, as they are not able to spend their money or time. In such a situation, if an event were to take place to soothe them, then that would settle down the chaos. Now, a large crowd had formed at the center of the Perdium, and the one standing there was none other than the young master of the Perdium, Ghislain. The people started cheering and shouting, saying it was a duel between young Master Cain and Ghislain. One person in the crowd shouted to bet money on young Master Cain, while others shouted that the damned punk Ghislain would finally get what he deserved. Now, the stores and merchants began to earn a lot of income. They were selling goods that were cheaper or even free for the crowd. A fat merchant shouted that everyone could bet their money and line up there. A large sum of money started piling up on the table. One person shouted, saying he would bet on young Master Cain. Others also bet on young Master Cain, considering it the safest bet. A large sword was struck at the center of the stadium. Cain told Ghislain, asking how he dared to turn a sacred duel into a marketplace. Cain told Ghislain that he would make the duel clear before they started. He warned Ghislain that his sword would not stop even if Ghislain surrendered. But Ghislain remained silent, looking at him, having already seen through this guy's plan. He knew that Cain and that suspicious person behind him must be plotting something. Ghislain told Cain that since it seemed they had enough people gathered, they could begin now. But a scout spoke up, telling Ghislain to wait, catching his attention. The scout said he didn't think a proper bet could proceed at that rate. Other spectators started to think that what the scout said made sense. The fat merchant leading the betting said that nobody had bet their money on young Master Ghislain, so the bet seemed impossible. Ghislain remained silent, perhaps waiting for something. The crowd commented that, to be fair, the result was way too obvious. Another person said that punk Ghislain had no chance against young Master Cain. Someone else shouted that they needed an idiot dumb enough to bet on the other side. Cain laughed, saying it seemed even the marketplace was ignoring Ghislain. Cain suggested to Ghislain that they change the contents of the bet. Someone in the crowd shouted that they should bet on how long Ghislain could endure against young Master Cain. While the crowd was discussing, someone walked toward the merchant. This person dropped a large sum of money on the table. It was the beaten-down Commander Scoven, assisted by Ricardo, bringing a large amount of cash. Scoven declared he would bet everything on young Master Ghislain. Ghislain seemed happy to hear that. Then, an even larger bag of money piled up on the table, above Commander Scoven's bet. It was Elena and Belinda. Elena said she would like to bet on her big brother too. Ricardo, Commander Scoven, and even Ghislain couldn't believe that Elena was betting everything on him. The crowd was shocked to see Lady Elena in the stadium. Lady Elena asked the merchant if her bet would now suffice. Belinda reminded Elena that she had advised her against betting on Ghislain, but the merchant was thrilled, saying Lady Elena's bet was already enough. The scout with Cain was annoyed that his proposal had been rejected due to the sudden interference. Cain was also irritated, saying that making him wait for no reason was something he didn't like. The merchant told both duelists to get ready. Ghislain told Cain that he must already know he was older than him, after all. He mentioned that it would look a bit strange for him to make the first move. Hearing the go signal from the merchant, and with everything seeming in order, young Master Ghislain slowly begins unsheathing his sword. He then begins rotating the sword in his hands, showing he's not as rusty as he might seem. Finally, he points the sword toward the ground, a clear signal that he is ready. His aura started to change as he got into that mode. He looked at Cain, telling him to come and attack. Kane remained silent, staying calm even in the face of Ghislain's taunt. He held up his large great sword and asked Ghislain if he thought it was too late for him to act like the older one now. Then, as the referee announced the start of the battle, Kane suddenly leaped forward, about to deliver a powerful downward strike. But in that moment, Ghislain didn't dodge the attack but received it with his all and was able to block it. As Kane was pressing down with that one attack, Ghislain felt the strong force that this guy was exuding. Kane said that Ghislain had already stooped to low to save face now. Then Kane rotated his sword, holding the blade part of the great sword, and used the handle to swing at Ghislain, pushing the MC back. He then used the handle of the sword to stab Ghislain, but the MC easily evaded it. Kane began swinging his sword once again in the opposite direction, still holding the blade. But it didn't end there, as Kane also kicked down at Ghislain. However, that kick was avoided, and the ground started to crack from the force of Kane's kick. The two of them now had some distance between them. The crowd said it was expected of young Master Kane and that Ghislain wouldn't even endure one hit from him. Kane starts smiling, thinking that the crowd and the battle are on his side, as he holds the upper hand and all Ghislain can do is evade and dodge his attacks. Ghislain just smirked, thinking that this guy looked so arrogant. Belinda started to panic, watching the battle. She asked Lady Elena what they could do now, saying they needed to stop them immediately. The scout seemed pleased with the initial outcome, thinking it was too late for Ghislain. To this scout, no matter who the opponent was, the moment they decided to cross swords with Kane, they were already trapped. The opponent, overwhelmed by Kane's immense power, would be consumed by the thought that there was no chance to counterattack and would use up all their energy solely on evasion. In the end, the exhausted opponent, after dodging for a while, would leave an opening and meet their end. Kane had always won that way. Now, just as they predicted, Ghislain could only dodge, and Kane held the upper hand, controlling the entire fight. Kane told Ghislain he was as slippery as ever, but it seemed that Ghislain had indeed grown since before. Then Kane started rotating his sword by tossing it and catching the blade, preparing to release a full swing. That full swing landed on Ghislain, who managed to block it. Kane remarked that it made sense. Ghislain had always been good at running away, even back in the old days. Kane began to release another full swing, but Ghislain seemed out of position because of the attack, and with that swing, he was launched upwards as if he were a baseball. Kane must have felt he had scored a home run with this. The crowd watching was in awe of the attack, but Ricardo and Commander Scoven seemed worried about the young master's situation. The scout was thrilled to see the battle unfold, thinking it was over for Ghislain. He even wished aloud for Ghislain's death. Ghislain started falling from that great height after being struck by that large sword, but instead of panicking from falling from such a tall height, he was calm, his eyes fixed on Kane. Ghislain managed to land perfectly on the stadium and then prepared to charge at his enemy. He told Kane that he had wanted to go easy on him, but this muscular guy with a small head had already crossed the line. It was now time for Ghislain to counterattack as he readied a full swing with incredible speed, aimed directly at Kane's face. Kane couldn't react in time and remained silent as Ghislain's attack landed, albeit shallowly. Kane could only look at Ghislain after the blow. The scout seemed worried as he watched, sweating. He began questioning how Ghislain had returned to a stable state by condensing mana into his legs. Ghislain just smiled to see them speechless. Ghislain told Kane his swordsmanship was ignorant, saying Kane must have thought he was the strongest simply because his opponents got scared when he showed even a little of his strength. Ghislain took a fighting stance, reminding Kane that he had already given him a chance to attack a while ago. Ghislain declared he would open Kane's eyes. This remark hit a nerve as Kane, feeling belittled, grew angry and prepared to release a full downward slash at Ghislain, who stood calmly awaiting the attack. Kane asks him how he's going to do that. Ghislain only moves a little bit with his feet. Then, with that movement, he manages to parry the attack using a kick and minimal effort. Ghislain starts rotating his body by leaping over Kane's hands. He is able to rotate 3 times, and in that moment 3 slashes are made by Ghislain and land on Kane's body. This annoys Kane further, and he thrusts his big sword toward the MC. But the more agitated he becomes, the easier his movements are to read, and Ghislain easily evades the attack. Ghislain stamps the greatsword into the ground, making the big guy unable to move his weapon. Then it's his time to release a full swing attack. He slices Kane's neck in that moment without hesitation. Ghislain just looks at the enemy coldly, without a sense of guilt. But lucky for this guy, he was spared, and the cut was only shallow. Everyone is speechless, seeing the Cain they thought was the strongest being beaten down and played with like that. The crowd starts to question what just happened. They say that young Master Ghislain has improved a lot. Some start to worry since Ghislain seems to be the one who's going to win the duel. Others start swearing because they bet on Cain. Belinda cannot believe what happened, but Elena proudly tells Belinda to see what is in front of her. Scoven, who was in the Urk raid, is also silent because he knows the capability of the young master. But the one who is most alarmed is the scout sent by the enemy. Cain looks at his wound. He realizes that the wound is too shallow, even though Ghislain could have made it deeper. He starts to question if Ghislain did that on purpose. However, he's more annoyed than amused. He wonders how a punk like Ghislain could show such a level of swordsmanship. As he looks at Ghislain, the young master is just silent, listening to the crowd, and he starts looking at Cain like he's nothing more than trash. Then Ghislain throws away the sword he was using, which catches Cain's attention. The sword starts rotating away from Ghislain. Ghislain says that such a gap in skill won't provide enough entertainment. Ghislain tells Cain that he'll be fighting barehanded from now on. This hits a nerve for Cain as his pride is stomped on. He asks Ghislain what he means by that. Ghislain faces Cain, who is already on the floor and on his knees. He starts rolling up his sleeves and tells Cain that he thinks it's time to educate him with his bare knuckles. The MC is colder than ever.